Hello, I'm Colleen and welcome to the program. In this video, I'm going to go over the framework to the program so you know what kind of to expect and some of the logistics, and then also what you need to get started, specifically speaking, the mindset that separates this program and makes it different from other programs. Um, the outcome that I want you to envision is not that you are going to quit drinking. That is something that is the absence of inaction. It's also the absence of a lot of negative consequences, but this program is designed to do so much more than just get you to quit drinking. The outcome, my outcome goal of the program is that you will completely change your relationship with alcohol so that it's just not an issue with you. And, as I shared in the breakthrough call, you're making an initial commitment to not drink for 8 weeks. That's temporary. But what I can tell you is that you're going to change so much that you're not even going to be thinking about alcohol in the same way by the time the 8 weeks are up. And so you can let go of that incessant chatter in your brain of, okay, I'm only doing this for 8 weeks, or maybe I'll do this for 3 months or 1 year. Let me explain the difference of how I currently experience my relationship with alcohol and how I think about it. So I don't drink pop. I used to be a diehard pop drinker, and then as I kind of cleaned up my diet, pop just became something that tasted really chemical to me. And it just naturally fell by the wayside. About 10 or 12 years ago, 2010 is when I went vegan. I'm not vegan anymore, though I do still eat plant-based. And you see me using the air quotes because I don't use labels unless they're helpful in a restaurant. Do you have a vegan version of that? Well, then that's the word. But I don't identify as vegan. So when I started to clean up my diet and move towards a plant-based diet, like I said, my taste buds really kind of changed. So I don't drink pop. I don't have any judgment for people that drink pop. I also don't eat McDonald's cheeseburgers. I used to love, it wasn't McDonald's, it was the Burger King Whopper, like the mini. Oh my gosh, I thought that was so good. Now, I'd have to be really hungry on a desert island, assuming that desert islands have Burger Kings, but I'd have to be real hungry before I would eat that. So the reason I'm explaining this to you is to kind of explain my mindset that I don't worry about pop. I don't think when I go to a party, like, what if people are drinking pop? How will that make me feel? I don't make plans to go out to lunch and worry about if there'll be pop on the table or if the waitress says, do you want a pop? I just don't drink pop. I don't think about pop. If I ever decided I wanted to have one because it was ceremonial or something, maybe I would, but I don't want it. I don't like it. Same thing with, the Burger King Whopper or McDonald's or whatever. I don't need to make a commitment and say, I'm never going to have a pop again. I'm never going to have McDonald's again or Burger King. I just know because I trust myself. I like to eat food that makes me feel good. I'm not going to seek that out. And in the event that I do have something like that, for whatever reason, I know I'm fine. I'm going to live through it. It's not life-changing. I'm not going to go back into being an addictive pop drinker or go back to needing fast food. And that's how I think about alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, but will I never drink alcohol again? I don't need that kind of reassurance with myself because I've got something so much better. And that's what I want to pass on to you. I've got a relationship with myself. I no longer do things that hurt me. So if I had a glass of wine, I'm not addicted to it anymore. So I'm not going to trigger the cycles that you learned about in the webinar. But probably, maybe I'd feel good, maybe I wouldn't. And then in an hour or two, I'd feel kind of tired or stressed or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, that's right, I don't drink. So that is the outcome that I'm hoping is aligned with your goals as well, that alcohol is just not an issue, where it's been so long that it's probably been defining and been your priority. And now you're looking to move through into a space where you just don't think about it. And it is a process. You can make the decision to quit drinking and follow that. And it's maybe not that easy in the beginning. I never had trouble not drinking. What I had trouble in the early days of sobriety with was the physical withdrawals. And then as we moved on, because I had drank for such a long time, I had some dysfunction in my relationships. I didn't have good boundaries. Feeling my feelings felt really foreign to me, but it's like riding a bike, and I felt so good about not drinking that I was willing and able to show up for the rest of it, and you will be too. So in this program, in the early week, the first thing that we'll talk about for those of you that have just stopped drinking is how to survive the first 10 days. It takes up to 10 days to really get all the alcohol out of your system if you've been a regular drinker, daily drinker for a long time. You may experience that you're good in 2 or 3 days or no days, and other people, you may feel hungover. I still felt kind of hungover for 8 to 10 days. And then that kind of came and went as I moved on, and we'll talk about why that is. But anyway, I'm going to give you the survival guide to the first 10 days. What to focus on, what to do, what to expect with sleep. Your sleep might be interrupted. I didn't have alcohol cravings per se, but I had sugar cravings, and I don't eat sugar. I have a really healthy diet, so it was really foreign to me to be like searching my kids' rooms for, contraband candy and things like that. But we'll talk about how to deal with those, what to do, what not to do, just so it makes so much it's comfort to just know what's coming and kind of prepare for the worst, and then, be pleasantly surprised. I kind of like to under promise, over deliver. So I'm going to tell you that it's probably going to be worse than what most people experience, and then it'll feel better than it should. So nutritional support, that'll be in the early part of the program. And then later on, as you progress, when you're ready, if you're interested, I have a 10-day plant-based recipes with like 38 different recipes if you're wanting to clean up your diet too. But I strongly encourage you to only take that on if you want to. I'm going to give you the basics, if you should be taking a multivitamin, and if you're taking vitamin D, and maybe you're doing a green smoothie every day. I'm going to give you some very basic stuff, but the resources will be there for you to expand based on where you're already at in your life and, kind of the mental bandwidth that you're operating on when it comes to nutrition. We're going to go over a lot of self-care practices and daily routines. I'm going to encourage you to set some rituals, but that'll be in the program, and you'll get to pick and choose what you want to do. We're also going to go back through the alcohol education, because it's really important to understand, like you learned in the webinar, but really, like, you should be able to teach somebody else the process of, the high levels of dopamine, the release of dynorphin, the stress hormones that get elevated, all of those things that happen. So you understand the biochemistry, because that's a really important part of change. Because if you don't do that kind of work, even though it feels a little elementary, then, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, your brain could start playing tricks on you. And we just naturally we forget pain and remember the good parts of things. So that putting in the alcohol education will kind of eliminate or safeguard against the effect of forgetting, kind of putting alcohol in a halo and not really remembering the bad parts. So we're going to hit that, not just the physical, but also what you went through, so that you can make sense of your own experiences and tie it all together with the reality of what happened and not what you think happened. We're also going to challenge and identify the cultural beliefs that we're all up against with mommy wine culture, and how normalized alcohol is, and the pervasive, please drink responsibly campaigns that ultimately neglect to mention that you're drinking an addictive substance. It's very normal to get addicted to an addictive substance. There's nothing wrong with you. So we're going to cover a lot of those beliefs, and you can have the opportunity to kind of examine and challenge. We're also going to get into relationships and setting boundaries that you probably don't have, and breaking codependent behavior cycles. And the reason why it's going to be an issue, what your issue looks like isn't going to be how mine were. But when we're in active addiction with alcohol, our first priority, for the most part, or at least one of the top priorities, is alcohol. So we exchange our integrity for the next drink. So what that looked like for me, for example, was I'd rather be thought of an alcoholic than open my mouth and prove it. So with my children and with my spouse and maybe other friends and close family, if something bothered me or perhaps somebody crossed a boundary, my kids maybe didn't meet expectations, I would kind of just swallow my objections, because if I emotionally reacted and I had been drinking, then that would mean that drinking was the problem, not the other problem. And I didn't want somebody to call any attention. I didn't want to call attention to my drinking. So I made a lot of dysfunctional relationships, because ultimately I'd rather have a drink than a fight. Okay. Then the other thing is with gaslighting. So when you're in active addiction, you want everybody around you to not notice or call that out. So you think you're getting away with it. Maybe it's very subtle. However, you're trying to get the people around you to agree that this is not happening. And so that just builds and builds and builds, and you don't even realize that you've become a master manipulator. And you're gaslighting people because you're not acknowledging the truth that you are drinking every night, or you are drinking too much, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to get into relationships, and I can tell you that this is one of the best parts about it. When I went into the drinking process, or when I went into the quitting drinking, I came into that decision really for one reason, and that's because I thought I was going to be getting a divorce. I blamed my husband for so many things that I later came to realize were just my own lack of boundaries. And we'll talk about that throughout the course. But I just want you to be aware that just let the dust settle with this not drinking thing. Don't assume that the way you feel now is the way you're going to feel, because it's not. And start to trust that you can trust yourself. So letting go, I know when I'm angry, I don't want to forget that I'm angry. So I got to go over the argument in my head over and over and over, so I get my words right, my justifications right. Let all that go. Give yourself the space to just decompress and then put the pieces back together, because you'll have the strength and the bandwidth. You're not going to forget if, there's a boundary or dysfunction in a relationship that isn't for you to fix. You're not going to forget that. So just relax a little bit and trust that everything's going to change from here on out. So then the other thing, the course will also be navigating social situations, so maybe role modeling and playing with, how do you say you're not a non-drinker the first time, well, because you've always been a drinker, what do you say? So we'll come up with things like, well, just quit doing it for me. Part of having boundaries is protecting yourself. If somebody says, why aren't you drinking? You're not obligated to say, well, because I realized I was addicted to alcohol and it was causing problems and I didn't feel good and I was hungover all the time and I was secretly driving when I shouldn't have been. None of that's anybody's business. So we are going to go over the logistics of social situations so that you can feel empowered and prepared before you go out into the world and decide what you're going to share and with who. But here's the thing: all the knowledge that I'm going to give you is not enough. It's a lot, and it's very, very much. But that's coming from me. What you have to bring to the table is a mindset, and I'm going to go over the three kind of key things that we're going to repeat over and over. But I just want you to think about, if knowing better made you do better, you'd already be doing better. So there's got to be something that changes on the inside. Knowledge doesn't change your life. Everybody's got Google, you can read books. We all know that we should be doing better, but somehow we don't. Why is that? It's because of our mindset. So this program, what I'm doing is incorporating that mindset in addition to all the other components so that you can experience the transformation that you're hoping to experience. And then also not just a transformation, but a sustainable one. So that, like I said, you can go out into the world and 3 years from now, you know you're making good decisions. No matter what you do, you're able to correct for your mistakes. And you have a completely different connection with yourself. So ultimately, the outcome of this program is about creating a connection and a sense of trust inside yourself. Okay, so what else? So let me reiterate then that the focus of most recovery programs is to get you to stop drinking. That's the goal. It doesn't matter if you're happy or if you're successful or even if you're functional. It just matters that you're not drinking. That is how they define our success. By committing and investing in this program, you've already agreed to not drink for the next 8 weeks. So this program would already be successful and we could all go home if that was all that was needed. We're going to do so much more than that. The transformation that I'm talking about that you'll make, the side effect of that transformation is that you won't need or want to drink alcohol. That's the side effect of the outcome of this program. So I want to be really, really clear. I'm not trying to brainwash you into, whether you want to identify with hardcore 12-steppers who there's some awesome people in that, or whether you land more in the sober curious where you're giving up alcohol for periods of time, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care, because I could change tomorrow too. I could end up going to AA meetings or promoting sober curious stuff. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I trust myself, and you will too. Okay, so what is the mindset? The mindset, there are 3 components of the mindset, and I'm going to try to repeat this as much as possible, but there are 3 things that you need to make a commitment on that will give you the outcome that I'm talking about. Number 1 is to practice authenticity. Number 2 is to not be attached to the outcomes. And number 3 is to do uncomfortable work. So what do I mean about authenticity? As in an active addiction, you have not been telling the truth, not to yourself and not to the people around you. So where number 1, practice authenticity, and number 2, don't be attached to the outcome, you're going to commit to yourself to honor wherever you're at, whenever you're there, without worrying about then how doing that affects the outcome. You're going to tell the truth, even when it's painful, and you're going to do the next right thing, regardless of what you think is going to happen. You're going to learn how to let go of the worry and just to stand in your own integrity. And this feels so amazing. This is the best part of not drinking, because your values are aligned with your actions, and you're going to mess that up. Some of the outcomes aren't going to be great, but the shame is not going to be there. You'll make mistakes, you'll correct for those mistakes, and you'll move on with this solid sense of who you are and a solid trust in your own ability to solve problems. Whether you make the problem or somebody else does, you got this. And that is the night and day difference between drinking and not drinking when you experience the transformation. So the process, all the stuff that I'm going to work with you on, the alcohol education, the social navigation, the boundary work, all of that stuff, that's the framework of this program, which, think of it like the vehicle. The mindset is the gas that makes the vehicle go. So committing to yourself right now that you're going to be authentic, you're going to not worry about the outcomes, and you're going to do uncomfortable work because it is uncomfortable to face the truth and to look into yourself and let go of all the thoughts and beliefs you have. It is uncomfortable. You haven't been doing that. You're going to do that. So if you're willing to be comfortable in your own discomfort, then that's the gas that powers this program. Your mindset is a reflection of what's going on inside of you, not outside of you. You are whoever and whatever you believe that you are. So if you believe that you're a drinker, you are a drinker. If you believe you're an alcoholic, then all that goes with that is yours. If you believe that you're going to suffer and struggle, you will. If you believe you have the ability to overcome any obstacle that gets in your way, you will. So the mind is a mirror to what's in here, not what's going on out there. So trying to change your problems by sheer force of will doesn't work very long. I mean, most of us were high functioning drinkers, and we had a lot of willpower to keep going and keep our shit together and do what we needed to do. But willpower doesn't work. It's control. It's like when you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, it's like using a Sharpie marker to correct the image. Well, that doesn't translate out into the real world. So the work that we're doing with our mindset inside then becomes the world that we experience. So we're changing the way we perceive reality. And that is unbelievable, to change the way you think and to change the way you perceive things. This gets really scary because when you agree to be authentic, now you're not going to blame other people for your own experience. No matter who they are and what they did, you're going to take responsibility for your experience. That's scary, to let go of that blame, to let go of other people's behavior. But when you do that, it's also the greatest gift in the world, because when you realize you're your own problem, you're also your own solution. And suddenly it's just a matter of doing what you need to do, instead of sitting around worrying about who to blame and why this happened and whose fault it is. That is not an empowering way to live. Nobody that's successful out there in the world, in any avenue, business, personal, not drinking, whatever, nobody's successful when they're focused on other people and what they did or didn't do. This is all about you. So it's uncomfortable, but trust me, it feels really, really good, and you'll make the shift really quickly, and then it's just about practice and moving forward. So what do I mean when I talk about doing the uncomfortable work? What can you expect with that? Well, first of all, you're not drinking. That may be like a light switch for you, and it may be struggle. But either way, you're not going to drink, and that is your commitment. That might be uncomfortable. So that's the first work that you're going to be doing. I will say this: not everybody makes it the first try right out of the gate. And I don't want to encourage that, like give yourself permission to take a night off. However, I want you to be reassured that I know what to do and how to handle it, and that there are resources within the program should you find yourself at the wrong end of a bad decision. There's no shame in that. I'll help you fail forward. So I just want to say that number one, be authentic. Should you make a bad decision, the first thing you'll do is own that bad decision, and there's no shame. I'll work with you. So just know that. So not drinking is the first uncomfortable work. Then you're going to make your self-care a priority. And I've rolled my eyes with the whole self-care thing, but as a drinker, I thought self-care was pedicures and Prosecco. Turns out it's really, really hard. It's like babysitting a 2-year-old who wants to drink. It's not as fun as it sounds. And so in the next 8 weeks, in addition to committing to not drinking, you're going to commit to a practice of self-care. And the more you invest your time in this program, going through the resources, it might be that you get to a lesson and you're like, I don't really want to do that. Okay, well, you paid for it, do it anyway, and then decide if it was worth doing. That is how I approach when I've invested in college courses and programs and certifications, I always think, I can render my decision that this isn't helpful after I do it, not before. And sometimes I find that indeed, yeah, that was kind of a waste of my time. But I promise you that the majority of the things in here, little by little by little, even when you don't realize what the benefit is, they're all coming together. There's not one thing that creates the transformation. It's all the things. So do all the things. Do all the things that you can. Make time for this program. Make time for yourself, and kind of almost create, like I kind of thought of it in my early days as a cocoon. I kind of went into a cocoon. I minimized as much as my outside activities I could allow, dialed down on my commitments, didn't sit in front of Netflix for hours, made space for myself to sit alone in silence or journal. And it's a little uncomfortable, but you've invested in this program and you've made the decision and you want the outcome. So you're going to have to make space for the program as well. So whether that be an hour a day or whether it be, weekend work or whatever it looks like, make a commitment to the time that you're going to invest, and then follow through on that. And the next thing is to be coachable and to show up coachable. So, like I said, I'm not trying to brainwash you with my own opinions, nor do I have any idea what you need to do. One man's pleasure is another man's poison. You might need more sleep, you might need less sleep. I don't know. Me giving you a prescription for what worked for me would be the same as me handing you a pair of my prescription eyeglasses and saying, this will help you see. It doesn't work that way. So as a coach, what I do is I listen to what you tell me. So what this looks like is I'll have a client who says, I'm not doing well. I'm not sleeping, and I'm not feeling well, and work is stressing me out beyond all belief. And I'll say, okay, well, what do you need to do about that? And they'll say, well, I need to take time off work, but I can't. Right. So that's where coaching comes in, because either you need to take time off work or you don't. And I'm going to get in there right in that pain point and say, okay, you have a belief that you need to take off work. Either you need to take off work or you need to change your belief about what you need. Okay. So that's where I come in, and that's how I support you. I support you to figure out what you need to do. I do not give you a prescription, because it doesn't work that way. My advice to you may very well be the exact opposite. So I'm going to, bring everything I know to the table. Let's say nutrition, or you're feeling low energy. You might need to go see your doctor. You might need to start taking vitamin D and vitamin B. You might need to get your thyroid checked. You might need to exercise more. You might need to exercise less. I can't know that, but I can support you in the process of kind of trial and error. And that's part of the mindset, is accepting that this is uncomfortable and it's trial and error, and that instant gratification that we're used to when we're in active addiction. Think of instant gratification in the next 8 weeks as long-term deprivation. The more you're willing to be uncomfortable and to really problem solve and get to the root cause of the matter, and not just superficially, help yourself with the symptoms, the faster and the more accelerated your recovery is going to be. Okay, so also with the mindset, we're going to do a lot of work with our feelings and our thoughts. And I want you to take this thought out for a test drive. And remember, words are just containers that hold meaning. So we come up with all these catchy phrases. I love catchy phrases. Truisms or cliches or whatever. I kind of really like those. I'm going to tell you things, and nothing that I tell you is, I'm not God. So, and it may mean something different to you from your history or culture or environment. So always take the language that I'm giving you with a grain of salt. Try it on. Discard what doesn't work for you, modify what might work for you, and just know that, words are imperfect containers of meaning. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that your feelings are 100% valid. And we've not been feeling our feelings. We've been drinking through them. We've been stuffing them down. So we're not used to dealing with that. Initially, that might feel a little overwhelming, but very quickly, you're an intelligent, functional human being, probably highly emotionally intelligent as well. So it's really just a quick practice that kind of once you observe, oh, I need to feel this in order to deal with it, then it just becomes like second nature. But you have to crawl before you can run. So it may take some timeouts in the early few weeks, however long it takes. I don't know. But anyway, our feelings are 100% valid. It's your thoughts that are 100% questionable and often usually batshit insane. So we're going to do a lot of work separating your feelings, the way you're physically experiencing tension or anxiety or depression, those sorts of things, with the story that is in your head about why you're feeling that. And I want to talk to you, I'm going to do some reading here, so excuse my eyes, but I have a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and he does such a fabulous job of explaining what our thoughts really are. And so that's why I want to put this in this first video of the program, because it'll give you the context to conceptualize what I'm talking about. There is part of you that is separate from your own melodrama. When you tell a friend, every time I think about drinking or my husband or my wife, or whenever I think about something, I get upset. It gives me stress. So let's think about that. Whenever I think about something, I get upset. How do you know you're upset? Well, because you're in there, you're inside here, and you're experiencing and watching what's going on. There's a separation between you and what you think. You are the one that is noticing what you're thinking. And once you put yourself in that seat of consciousness, that you're not the thoughts, you're the one noticing the thoughts, that allows you to get some separation, and that is the road to peace. And that is the process of what we would say meditation or mindfulness, recognizing that you are not your thoughts. Another good analogy that I love, when I teach yoga, I say, we are the sky. I am the sky. You are the sky. And your thoughts are the clouds. Some days the clouds are low and rainy and dark, and other days there's not a cloud in the sky. I don't have a lot of days like that, to be honest. But anyway, understanding that you are separate from your thoughts. Your inner growth is completely dependent on the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking. You have to stop thinking. You'll never be free of your problems until you recognize that you have an inner roommate. It's your psyche, and it's always talking, and it's always creating problems. So sit with that for a minute. Just sit in silence. Is it quiet in there? Nope. Probably you're thinking thoughts like, why am I doing this? What is she talking about? I have better things to do. She's weird. This is a waste of time. And also, only schizophrenics have inner roommates. So this is crazy. Right? There's thoughts going on in there. All of these thoughts then begin to create tension, anxiety, frustration, fear, worry, concern, la, la, la. And all those feelings then can and do ruin a perfectly good experience, a perfectly good day. It's because that inner roommate is just talk, 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 talk. Here's an example. Well, before I say that, if you're not aware that your inner roommate is always talking, you'll be a slave to that voice. And I'll explain what that looks like here in a sec. But when you are aware, you'll start to notice that that neurotic voice doesn't even make sense. It'll tell you one thing, and 5 minutes later, it'll tell you something different. It's emotionally reactive, and it gives really, really, really bad advice. And yet we're constantly relying on that inner voice to tell us what to do about our relationships. Oh, we need to break up with them, or we need to get a divorce, or we need to get married. And it like vacillates between days or minutes even. What to do with our money, buy the stock, sell the stock, give the stock, like blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't stop. We have this incessant internal monologue that is constantly bipolaring around all of the things in our life. So here's an example. My husband said he'd be home for dinner. So I made dinner and now he's late. So I start talking. He probably stopped at the fish store because he has a saltwater fish tank. And he probably stopped and got a car wash. He doesn't even care that I've made dinner. He doesn't even realize how much I do for him. He doesn't care about me. He's a narcissist. He's a jerk. No wonder I drank so much. It's all him because he's never home. Who the hell cares about me anyway? Why he doesn't care? Why should I care? This is ridiculous. I should just divorce him. I deserve better. I'm done. Okay, and scene. So my husband doesn't show up for dinner when I thought he was going to be there. And suddenly I'm getting a divorce and shopping for apartments on Zillow. Like, okay. And then suddenly he walks in the door. And not only does he walk in the door, he's holding flowers. And now my mind starts saying, oh my gosh, he worked so hard today. Oh my gosh, he got tied up at work and he does so much for me and I love him and he's so thoughtful to bring me flowers and I'm so happy with him and oh, this is just great. I'm so happy we're married. And scene. It's crazy because we go back and forth, our thoughts can make us suffer so much and for so long. And our thoughts become snowballs that are rolling down the hill. My husband's late. I need to get a divorce. I mean, how do we even get there? But, obviously I'm making all this up and have never really experienced it. Just kidding. Yes, I have. So our thoughts can make us suffer, and they do. And they're the source of all suffering, actually. Pain is just in the moment. If I say, ooh, I don't like those pants. They kind of make your butt look big. That hurts. Ooh. But they're just words that make sounds in the air that hit your ear and then they evaporate. Like nothing really happened. Yet you might spend the next week worrying about the size of your ass and the quality of that friendship because the inner roommate just keeps going and going and going. The psyche is neurotic. So being aware that that inner roommate is talking and also understanding that while the inner roommate can make us feel happy, the inner roommate really is an official problem creator. It's never satisfied for long. So as soon, and you know this from your own experience, as soon as you get comfortable, you get the brand new car, you're driving it off the lot, this is amazing. And then, a week or two later, it's just another car and really not good enough. And you're looking at what you're buying next. It's the inner roommate. There's nothing more important in life than to realize that you are not the voice in your mind. That voice. You're not you can hear my voice. You're not that. You can hear a dog bark. You're not the dog bark. You can smell a flower. You're not the smell. Just the same, you are not the voice that you hear inside your head. This is the key to freedom. You are the one that hears the voice, and you are in control of how you interact with that voice. So, why does the voice happen? And this is where I'm going to read from Michael Singer's directly. The voice is simply narrating the world for you in order to make you feel more comfortable, to give you a sense of control. The narration integrates whatever is happening around you with your beliefs and your values and your past experiences, allowing you to create a reality that you understand. So here's an example. You're walking outside in the winter. You start to shiver. and the voice says, "It's cold." Now, how did that help you? You already knew it was cold. You're the one who is experiencing the cold. Why is the voice telling you that it's cold? Well, you recreate the world within your mind because you can't control the world outside of your mind. So you just start talking about it. If you don't like the way the world is, then you internally verbalize it, judge it, complain about it, and decide what to do about it. And this makes you feel empowered. When your body experiences the cold, there may be nothing you can do to affect that temperature. But when your mind verbalizes that it's cold, now your mind can then say, well, we're almost home. Just a few more minutes. It's fine. Don't worry. We're not going to take much longer. We're almost there. It's okay. And now you feel better. In the thought world, there's always something you can do about your experience in the thought world. It's the outside world that we don't have control over. So the mind narrates our realities in order to make sense and then control it. Basically, it's a virtual reality. So he goes on, you will continue to see that the mind talks all of the time because you give it a job to do. You use it as a protective mechanism. It's a form of defense. Ultimately, the chatter makes you feel more secure because you think you know what's happening. And as long as you want to feel secure, you will be forced to constantly use your mind to buffer against the outside world instead of just living in the outside world. The world is constantly unfolding, and it has very little to do with you or your thoughts and what's going on with you. The world was here before you, and the world will be here long after you're gone. But your mind, that's a scary thought. So your mind is trying to make you more relevant within the world. So it's narrating a role. You're being written into the story that really doesn't have much to do with you. So true personal growth is transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protecting. That's the uncomfortable work that I'm talking about in this program. You're going to be transcending the part of you that is uncomfortable, because you'll see that you can survive discomfort. It's not that painful. The mind is actually much more painful. You know, I've equated depression, mild depression. I've had paper cuts that were physically more painful. It's the mental crap and the voice that's just circling in my head that's torturing me. So in this program, we're separating our feelings, and we're feeling them, and we're realizing, okay, I can handle this, from the thoughts that are absolutely incessant torture and suffering. It's not even pain, it's suffering. So let me repeat that. True personal growth is transcending the part of you that's not okay and that needs protecting. So you're going to be okay with not being okay. And the reason you're going to be okay with not being okay is because when you're transcending this, you are connecting to the energy source, and you're trusting that you'll always have what you need or the ability to get what you need. You're always going to be okay, even when you're not okay. And that is that is what's required for transcendence, to know and to trust that you'll always be okay. It's being willing to sit even when you're uncomfortable without trying to fix it, because you can handle the discomfort, because you want to experience life. You want to experience life as it is, and not how your mind is constantly telling you and rewriting the story. It's just crazy. So you're looking for a more authentic experience. So that goes back to our mindset. Be authentic, let go of the outcome, and do the uncomfortable work. And then finally, one thing that is, I hear this from a lot of clients who come to me, and they find me because they've signed up for those, programs that, maybe they're sober curious, or maybe they're 30-day challenges or something. And sobriety is being sold to them like it's all rainbows and unicorns. Like The first day you don't drink, you're going to feel amazing. Your energy's going to be awesome. You're going to sleep great. All your relationships are going to be fixed. You're going to be super smart, super sexy. Your skin's going to look great. Your hair's going to grow in and be long and gorgeous, and oh, your butt's going to be higher, and your boobs are going to be higher, and everything. If you're a dude, I'm sorry, everything's going to be great. You'll have a six pack if you're a dude. But that's what sobriety is sold to us at. And nobody reads the fine print that actually this is a lot of work. If you want to maintain and transform your life, if you want to maintain sobriety and transform your life, there is work to be done. But it's not scary. It's just uncomfortable. That's it. It's really, really doable. So what I work with my clients, and what separates me apart from other programs, is that I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. This is work, and you have to show up and do the work. And it may be days and months where you're still struggling. I can tell you you're going to be doing way better than you were, but it's still recovery is about recovering. So it's a process. And as good as it feels on some days, you may also feel mildly depressed and still struggle with anxiety. You may have, other issues like I talked about that might have nothing to do with depression, anxiety. It may be more nutritionally based. Maybe you've got some nutritional deficiencies or a thyroid imbalance or whatever, but you're going to show up and be okay with whatever the outcome is, and you're going to be able to solve your own problems. And so where I'm going with this is that the cost of staying as you are and mentally living this insanity is actually really, really high. So it may seem like you've invested a lot of money in this program. Now I'm asking you for time and now also energy, when right now you may not feel like you have a lot of energy. You may just feel flat and lethargic because your dopamine isn't firing and you've still got stress hormones in your body, and so you don't feel like you have the energy. But here's where this transcends even the alcohol thing, is that thinking, remembering, predicting, storytelling, making associations, all those sorts of things, thinking and feeling, generating emotions, managing emotions, trying to change our emotions, thinking and feeling require a tremendous amount of energy. And it's not the kind of energy that we get from food. The kind of energy that this mental energy I'm talking about, it's what we refer to as life force, chi, spirit. So it saps all of our life force and energy to think and mentally process our emotions all the time. So if you're feeling low, you notice that the food you eat probably doesn't give you much energy, no matter how much you eat or how little you eat. But you can remember times in your life where you have felt really energetic, and a new relationship or a new job or some creative process has you plugged into flow, to the zone, to whatever. And your sleep, you don't even think about it, and you're not even all that hungry. You just have all this energy. That's the energy that this process will connect you to. And when you tap into that energy, you are able to transcend the mental and physical stuff. And what happens when you're caught up in the drain, the energy suck of all the mental stuff, is that your heart closes. And that's what we refer to as blocked energy. And you've got a lot of blocked energy in you. So, while you may be going through some withdrawals, and while there also may be physical reasons, brain chemistry, nutrition, all of that you don't have any energy, it also is likely that you've got a lot of heart blockages. And I don't do a lot of airy-fairy, floofy stuff, but I do believe that there's two types of energy. One is the kind we get from food, and one is the kind we get from life. And so if your heart is closed and you're feeling really low energy, doing this work will open those channels, if you will. And so then the energy will become natural. So it's not just restoring your physical energy. It's not just recovering from physical deprivations. It's also very emotional, and being willing to be authentic, tell your truth, let go of your concerns and worries about what that will mean, to show up and allow yourself to be uncomfortable. That's going to open your heart. And ultimately, that is this program. So again, the side effect of transformation and of opening your heart is you're not going to care about alcohol anymore, because you're going to trust yourself to make good decisions for yourself forevermore. Not that you don't have more work in life, but in general. So that kind of sums up the course of what to expect, what to bring, and what the outcomes hopefully will be. And so now it's time to get started. So watch the introductory video that explains kind of the layout of the courses and all the assignments, and I'll see you soon.